Okay, so I don't live on a farm. I wish that I did, but I live in a pretty suburban kind of neighborhood area. And so I don't have a problem with deer or any other wildlife. I have a problem with cats. And as you can see in the picture, this is my dog Jasper, and this is my kitty, Mr. Kitty. And then out in my raised beds in my front yard, we see two little visitors. And then here's my bird house, or bird feeder, one of them, and some plants. So it's problematic for several reasons. One of them being because in about 5 seconds, this guy, all 80 pounds of him, is going to try to jump through the window and get those cats out in the yard. So it's a subject very near and dear to my heart. Now, what do I do?
Just hit enter on your keyboard.
Oh.
No, not working.
No.
Okay, hang on, let me grab it back. Cool.
Yeah, animations are fun. Okay, so just as an introduction, domestic, feral, stray cats can visit your yard or garden out of curiosity, mating, hunting, feeding, or to establish territory, especially if all of your neighbors feed cats. And feral cats this is right across the street from me, and I can usually see just gangs of them walking down the street. But they have home ranges that cover wide areas over a variety of habitats. Next slide, please. So, okay, why are cats a problem? Well, number one, if they're digging around in your garden, it's destructive. They can prey on or discourage birds and other beneficial wildlife from visiting your garden. And like you could see from the intro picture, you know, I have a bird feeder right outside my office window so I can watch the little birds, and I would just die if a cat killed a bird. But I usually have more to worry about from my lab killing birds than the cats in the neighborhood. And third of all, it's a health hazard to have cats in your garden. Next slide, please. Cats are carnivores, so their feces can contain parasites and pathogens that are not found in other types of manure that we would normally use in the garden, like cow, horse, or llama, Jerry. And cats carry parasites that can also infect humans. Roundworms and other intestinal parasites are deposited along with their little poo in your garden, and they end up in the soil and on your plants. Ew. Toxoplasma gondii can live in the soil for years. I did not know that before I did this project, and I did know it was particularly dangerous for pregnant women and immunosuppressed people. So how to deter cats from your garden? So we learned that we can attract or deter cats like all other wildlife through manipulating the habitat. And as we learned, habitat is a collection of resources, the food, cover, water required by a particular species in an area that can support that species. Food, which is a problem in my neighborhood because my next door neighbor puts out huge plates of cat food, and there's usually 5 or 6 cats at any given time in my yard, in the yard next door or across the street. My dog jumps out of the fence all the time to eat the cat food or chase the cats, so it's a nightmare. Cover, I have a huge, you can't see it in that picture, but just out of view, next to my bird feeder, there's a huge boxwood bush. And I go out there and mess around in my flower bed, and there's always a little cat like jumping out of there that, you know, gives me a heart attack on a weekly basis when I don't know it's there until it jumps out at me. So to control the habitat, you know, first we can look at food, remove any kind of food sources. Don't feed the strays. I'm guilty. And don't feed your pets outside where the cats may be able to access the food. Secure any of your trash so that the strays can't help themselves to a big buffet of all of your thrown out stuff. Keep your yard and your garden tidy. Clear the brush and the clutter where their rodents and their typical prey might live. Board up any holes that give access to sheds, garages, or other areas under your decks or porches where they could, live and breed and have little kittens. So interestingly, one big thing that we can do is scent barriers. And cats have 200 million odor receptors compared to humans, measly little 5 million. And some natural things that we can do are rue. Although I have 2 rue plants out in my garden, and the picture with the 2 little cats out there, they were 5 feet from the rue, and it didn't seem to bother them. Lavender, rosemary, pennyroyal, chives, lemon balm, coleus, the caninus, or the scaredy cat plant, and that's the picture that's there, is also known to be malodorous to cats. Dried blood smell, which would be found in blood meal fertilizer. And they play in the lavender too. Citrus is apparently they're averse to the smell of citrus, so I've seen recommendations to put the peels of any kind of citrus fruits that you eat in the garden. Mothballs is a suggestion. Cayenne pepper, but it's not really humane because it can sting, causes them pain and discomfort, and we don't want that. Human hair, was also a suggestion. Some commercially available stuff that you can buy, and these are just 2 out of many examples that I found, are Shake Away and the Repellex. So the Repellex you can get at Home Depot, but they're granular things that you just shake in the problem area. They're not toxic, they're organic, they're not going to harm your plants. And they use the scent of predators that cats typically fear, like coyote, bobcats, and fox. I also read, as a side note, that a fake lion feces or urine product is on the market, but Mythbusters apparently disproved that worked to dispel cats from gardens, so don't use the fake lion stuff. Next slide. Physical barriers. Now, we all know cats can jump, they can climb, so, what kind of fence is actually going to keep them out of our gardens? So cats prefer to walk on soft soil and avoid prickly surfaces. They want to defecate in loose, soft soil or compost. So some ideas are to, cover those areas with twigs, pine cones, holly leaves, eggshells, drive sticks into the ground, mulch with rocks or gravel, or use one of those plastic carpet runners with a nubby side up. Anything that's going to be really unpleasant for a cat to try to walk on is supposed to deter them from trying to dig or go potty in your garden beds. Chicken wire on top of your soil, cut holes in it that are large enough for you to be able to install your plants. An electric wire fence, removable hoop coverings, and there's a picture of it. It looks like a chicken wire hoop covering, so it's kind of a compilation of a couple of those suggestions. Water. So you can hide in your garden or in the bushes and pop out with a super soaker or something whenever you catch them there, because cats aren't like dogs. They don't get it. They're not trainable. They're not trying to please you, and if they know that you're trying to punish them, it's just going to piss them off, and they're just going to do something equally as rotten. So a scarecrow sprinkler is another method of, if you don't have the time to hide out in your bushes with the super soaker, it's a motion detecting automatic version of the super soaker. Sound barriers, like the nail scratching the chalkboard. So cats are pretty sensitive to sound, just like dogs. There's devices out there that you can buy that send out a really high frequency sound that they don't like. Or some DIY options. Get an empty can, put some marbles, pebbles in it, or rig up some bells or chimes that whenever the cat walks on your fence or whatever, that it'll trigger that sound, and then they'll be unhappy and hopefully run away without pooing in your garden bed first. If you can't beat them, join them. So offer an alternative. And if you don't want to completely keep them out of your garden area, give them their own space. Put their own little litter area out with a shallow pan or container that's got some loose soil or sand. If you've got a sandbox out there, I think cats love those. And put catnip close by so you can attract them to the area and they know that that's kind of their thing. And sources. I had a lot of sources. It was kind of hard to find, I guess, like peer-reviewed scientific sources on keeping cats out of the garden, but I did find quite a lot.
That is true, Katie.